Hey, everybody. Welcome back to an exciting episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Satterlee, and it's my pleasure today to be joined by Dan Kleckner. Dan, what's up, my man?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, Dan is the owner of Kutting Edge Fitness. It's spelled with a K, of course, just like his last name. And you're up in the greater Seattle area. Is that right?
Yeah, we are, man. We have two locations here, one in Kirkland, Washington, one in Issaquah, and then I also have another gym that I own with a business partner in good old Butte, Montana as well.
Beautiful Butte, Montana. Good place to go for St. Patty's Day, if you can survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get on with you today because you are doing everything in the fitness space right, especially you really worked on your business model and resisting the urge to go cheap and easy that I think a lot of people get into early on in their fitness careers. But just so everybody can kind of have a picture of what you do. So you're basically running 3 different gyms. 2 of them are, I'm going to guess you're in those 2 at least a couple times a week. You personally are going to those spaces?
Yeah. I'm in our Kirkland, which is our original location. The most, I go to our Issaquah one only about 1 or 2 days a week. The Montana one is obviously all remote, just calls, checking with my partner. But yeah, the Kirkland one I'm in pretty much 4 or 5 days a week. And
give us some, can you give us square footage so we understand what we're talking about here? Definitely.
Yeah. All 3 locations actually end up working out to be right at about 4,000 square feet. So they're all similar in size.
So you're a big Tom Plummer fan, right? So that's kind of the stage 2. Things are getting serious. You can start with the 1,000 square feet. Now you've moved up to 4,000. And how do you like that size, by the way?
I love it, man. It's perfect for us. We could, realistically end up anywhere between the 4,000 to 6,000, but the real estate prices here in Seattle are pretty expensive right now. So the 4,000 is good for us. And yeah, I've been a big proponent of Tom's for a long time. He's been my business coach for a while now. And it's kind of that falls in line with his model with the square foot stuff as well, for sure.
Yeah. And you kind of, just from following you online, you kind of have specialized in golf. I wouldn't say that you're 100% a golf fitness facility, but that certainly is a big driver of your economy, right?
Definitely, yeah. In our Kirkland location, about 25% of our clients are golfers. In our Issaquah location, I actually share that space with the TPI Golf Teaching Pro, and we have 2 TrackMan bays in there. And I would say about 50% of our members there are golfers as well. And I'm a huge golf fan, golf fitness fan. We've been doing the golf fitness stuff for about 6 years now. We never wanted to pigeonhole ourselves into just golf fitness because it's a little hard to, make the revenue and profit margins we want. We're just so niched out in that, but it's a big part of what we do. And it's, at least 50% of the business we do in Issaquah and about 25% in Kirkland.
That's awesome. And when you have that many golfers, is the remainder of the membership, is a lot of that the kind of husbands, wives, sons and daughters of the golfers that you're serving?
Some of it is, but we're in a very heavy tech area here with Microsoft and Facebook and Google, and all those places have offices here. So I would say our other percentage of clientele is just a lot of the fitness after 40 crowd, people that need to work on core strength, mobility. Actually, a lot of the same stuff our golfers need to work on. Yeah. So our programming falls in line with both groups anyways. But yeah, I would say that other 50% or so is the over 40 crowd that wants more of a personalized, customized program.
But you're actually working for your money. You're not one of these clowns that's doing, working with 18 to 22 year olds and talking about mobility training. And I'm like, what in God's name are you talking about, man?
Yeah,
you don't know mobility training until you work with a 68-year-old,
Exactly, man. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I especially want to talk to you because, like I told you before, a lot of my listeners have a clinic. They're doing well. They're probably attracting that same market that you're talking about. And then they're adding in gym or fitness services, bolting that onto their clinic, right? And I love the fact, because I'm a devotee of Tom's as well, I love the fact that you're all small group. And if you don't mind, I would love to kind of dive into what you see about small group training. And one thing that a lot of people get into, I think in their first year, and I don't know if you felt this pressure, but the thought of to get more clients, I'm going to have to go low price and then to counteract that large group training. So kind of the CrossFit, 20 people in a class setting. Did you go through that kind of experience? Did you have that? Tom wouldn't let you do this, but did you think, I need to reduce my prices. I need to, work with a whole bunch of people at once and make it super cheap. Did you ever feel that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's the natural thought process to go through when you're brand new into this and trying to open up a gym. And when we first started having the idea, that was definitely in the back of our minds. We got very lucky though from day one that we got to work with Tom for, about a year, Tom and Rick Mayo a lot for about a year before we opened up. So they quickly pivoted us to that small group model and got those thoughts out of our head, which was great.
I'm sure Rick presented like the statistics of why you want to do it and talked to you like your grandfather would, whereas Tom told you you're being a freaking dumbass, repeatedly yelled at you and just browbeat you until you didn't do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Rick's a little more empathetic and a little easier to deal with on that side of things for sure. But it was actually honestly really good working with both them for that whole year because they do stuff similarly enough where we were able to pull a lot from that, but they also are very different guys and do stuff differently as well. And so we got kind of the best of both worlds, which we were
and literally both of them have seen hundreds of gyms succeed and hundreds unfortunately fail,
Exactly.
Yeah. So here you are doing small group training, and are there large group training offerings around you? Like, are there any other gyms geographically close to you?
Oh yeah. Where I'm sitting right now at our Kirkland location, I would say there's probably 10 to 15 large group models within 2 miles of us. So we have franchises all over here with, 9 rounds, F45, Orange Theory, you name it. And it's around here. So it is a good differentiator for us doing the small group because we are one of the very few in our area that specializes in the small group. So we kind of just pivoted and went the exact opposite way of where most of the mainstream franchises are going right now with the group model.
Yeah. And how long you been there in Kirkland?
6 years.
So let's say 4 years ago, were there other large group offerings around you? I mean, is this the second version? Because F45 is a relatively new offering in the States, right? I think it started in Australia or something.
Yeah.
Orange Theory's been around for 8 years on the big franchise push. So
yeah, that's a good point. I would say when we first opened up, there was really only maybe 1 or 2 of those around. And now, like I said, there's probably 10 to 12. So that is a huge influx in the fitness industry right now as you see these franchise models that are the, 2,000 to 2,500 square feet large group model. And that's kind of what everybody's pivoting towards. Which makes sense for a franchise model because it's probably the easiest thing to run. You don't really need experienced coaches. You don't need a whole lot of space.
You don't need a whole lot of expertise. I mean,
you don't need a whole lot of expertise.
Run the recipe.
Everybody can get their weekend certification and open up the gym. But we wanted to be kind of the exact opposite of that model. So,
well, to be fair, they can get their weekend cert like 3 or 4 months into working there. So don't worry about it.
True. True.
So what's typically the response when you tell, a client coming out of one of those, because I'm sure you got a bunch of people coming out of those, they hear about your spot and they go from the kind of large group mentality to a highly specialized small group training. What do they say? Like,
yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's a hard sale because people are coming in used to spending, $100 at those gyms, and our average membership is closer to $300 a month. So sometimes it does take that convincing, but I think the easiest way to do that, like Tom always says, is to know us, is to love us, is having a trial process in place, whether it's a 15-day or a 30-day trial. Nobody comes in here and signs up right off the bat. So we're not trying to hard sell them on day one on something they've never done. So we have a trial process of either 15 or 30 days or, whatever ad we're running on Facebook for our trial process. And then everybody comes in on those. And then we have very systematic approach during that trial process to onboard them and try to get them into a regular membership, obviously, by the end of that trial process. And we've been pretty steady across the board, about 60% trial conversions over the last 6 years at all of our locations. So we know that if we can get, 10 people in the door on this trial process, there's a good chance we're going to sign up 6 of them. And some of them, it does take more convincing than others as far as the price point. But I think a lot of them, once they just go through it and see what the small group entails and realize that they're getting a customized program and they're not having to either fight people for equipment at a big box gym, or they're not getting lost in the shuffle at a 30-person group class where everybody's doing the same thing and probably 80% of that program is going to get most people hurt. They kind of see that value in what we do once they try it.
Yeah, don't knock the getting hurt thing, dude. My listeners have built careers off of bad gyms and
that's true, man.
Members.
That's very true.
And all kidding aside, when you're talking about onboarding in that first 30 days, again, a lot of folks listening don't have the experience you've had, and they're trying to get this thing going. what are a couple things, maybe 2 or 3 things that are super important on the onboarding experience that a lot of people overlook or just don't assume are a big deal? I'll give you a second to think about it. The one thing that I will share, that just a story that always sticks out in my mind, is we decided to have a walkthrough on one of the days. Like when you join up, we have this success meeting, and the last thing it finishes with is just like a 10 to 12 minute walkthrough of the gym, talking about the different pieces of equipment and where they go, so that you can have an organized place and like, hey, Dan, whenever you use a, dumbbell, put it back over here. And so we were just talking about kettlebells, and we had a barbell rack and, bumper plates and all that, just using the terminology and standing there one-on-one with somebody and saying, these are, we call these kettlebells. Some people say cowbells, or they look like a cannonball with a handle on it, but they're kettlebells. We put the heaviest ones on the bottom and the lighter ones up top. All right, these are our barbells, and you can tell the weight by the, they're in a vertical rack. So like the shorter ones for a woman, shorter ones are for you, longer ones are for the tall guys. And, going around, and people were just like, half the people were bored out of their skull, but the other half that weren't bored were like, that's amazing. I've never understood what those things were. I never knew the name. I'm so glad you explained it to me. And to us, we're a lot of the people in this business have been around gyms their whole life. And so they know those names, they know what the skull crushers are, and they know what the, cable machine is, and a low cable row and all this stuff. But you forget how some people are total novices, and they're not coming in with that knowledge, and nobody ever stopped to go like, do you understand what this is? Like, let me just show it to you real quick.
Yeah, that's an extremely good point, man. I mean, we talked about earlier about how we get clients coming from, the large group model, but a lot of our clients coming in here maybe have never even been into a gym before, or if they have, it's very, like I said, very novice. And our gym looks very different. People come in here like, where's all the equipment? Where's all the row of treadmills and stuff like that? So I think what you said is perfect, is you have to take the time to really explain things, understand how things work in here, go over the different equipment, go over what our philosophies on programming are, and really just dumb it down for everybody so that they understand kind of what they're getting into, but also just creating a welcoming environment. The biggest thing that differentiates us from those other places is our community and just the personalization of everything. Like, obviously we know all of our members' name. Everybody's greeted by name when they come in here. Everybody's greeted by name when they leave. And just the little things about being able to get to know the clients and kind of meet them where they're at. And then along with that, I think the other thing that gets overlooked a lot is just the follow-up process. A lot of people put these, go through the initial consultation, put these people in the trial process, and then just kind of forget about them. And then you expect them to sign up 30 days later. I think you have to have a diligent follow-up process in place, whether it's from the owner or the manager, or whoever's in charge of that process. But, weekly calls, weekly emails, check in, how's it going? Is there anything we can do better? How your workout's going? How you feeling? That kind of stuff. Because there's got to be a consistent follow-up process for it. So for us, it's minimum once a week, checking in with them on either text or call, seeing how they're doing, seeing how everything's going on the trial process. And then usually about halfway through the trial, we will try to make the sale.
Okay. And you hit it halfway through. If they don't take it, you hit it again at the end of the 30 days or something?
Yep, exactly.
So I'm sure a lot of people are going, I'm so busy, I don't have time to do a lot of these calls once a week, blah, blah, blah. My gut tells me that a lot of those result in, I love it. I mean, it's like a 2-second conversation about, hey, thanks a lot for the call. I love it. I'll see you on Thursday.
Yep.
Usually, what are those calls like?
Yeah, they are really quick, man. People, but the crazy thing is now we're like such a removed society from like personal interaction that people get a call and like our type of clientele that are in their 40s and 60s, like appreciate that kind of stuff. So they want to talk on the phone and interact and chat. One of the things we do too is every time somebody signs up for a trial, we send a handwritten thank you card with 2 trial memberships for a family member as well. And we get a lot of return on those. And people get a thank you card in the mail, which is pretty rare nowadays. And I think that goes a long way just to, again, personalize and get the personal touch side of thing. And we've been a big proponent, just from learning from Tom and Rick about just having the right staff in place. So if you personally can't make all the calls, you got to delegate that to your team. And first of all, if you're going to run a successful business, you have to have a good team in place. And, I would say if something can be delegated, 80% as well as you can do it, then delegate it. And I delegate a ton, before COVID. Obviously I'm traveling a lot, doing speaking and that kind of stuff. And my gyms have to be able to run without me there. So I have to have a good team in place and trust them to delegate and get that kind of stuff done. And so I don't think there should be an excuse of not having the time to do it, because you should have a team in place to be able to delegate that too.
Have any of those calls resulted in a big change to your program or interesting information? That's driven by the other thing about making those calls is you actually get some frontline information that you wouldn't get if you weren't teaching the class.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point. We also send out surveys at the end of or during the trial process, and then at the end of the trial process too. And we use a lot of that survey and call information to make little tweaks. I wouldn't say we make any like overhaul changes to any of our system stuff, but it is good to know like what they need and what they want, and then we can tweak little stuff in their programming or their sessions or how they're scheduled, little stuff, operational stuff too. That so we do use a lot of that information for sure to help kind of customize their experience.
Yeah, I always had the habit of calling every new patient, the night of their first appointment, just checking in. And it was almost better if I left a voicemail and didn't talk to them, because then the next time they came in, they'd be like, man, I couldn't believe you called, and I told my wife, and she was blown away that you left me a message and you personally called, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I'm almost hoping they don't answer, because you get extra crap when they don't. And I picture them playing the message for their wife or, husband or something, like, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's awesome. And that kind of stuff goes a long way.
Now, you said something else that I thought was interesting, and I think it's overlooked a lot, but you said that you also, in that onboarding period, kind of explain your approach to programming to your members. And how much time do you take to do that, or how do you kind of explain it to them?
We do that during our initial consultation process. So everybody that's coming on the trial goes through, just like anybody else, usually a normal kind of 60-minute initial consultation. But a lot of that we are having to explain what our programming is, because a lot of people come in here and, like I said, are like, where's the row of treadmills? Where's all the machines? And we have to explain to them, we have to, dumb it down a lot, but explain to them kind of at a fifth grade level of, we don't believe in machines. We don't believe in creating artificial stability. We want you to train holistically, upright, create that functional training so that your body can move and the proper movement patterns and stuff like that. And really, we just delve it into like, let's work on improving core strength. Let's work on improving posture, T-spine mobility. Just keep it simple terms like that. And then people are like, oh, well, I've never thought about that. Like, I'm used to just going on these machines, and, why would I not just go on machines all the time? So if you take the time to explain it to them to that, I think it goes a long way. And then they really feel like they're getting a customized, personalized program.
Yeah. I think a lot of the approach of these large group places, or their approach to programming, that people who have paid for an F45 or Fit Body Boot Camp or CrossFit. And I don't want to sound like I'm negative against those things. Like, I'd rather have the world moving and putting weights overhead and to their, and to the side and lifting things than I would have them being sedentary. But when it comes down to being a snob about fitness, I think it's the only approach to programming they've seen in the past is just, hey, we're going to write it on the whiteboard and you're going to do it. And don't ask any questions, because we don't have time for that, So I think it's huge. If you look at like Eric Cressy, for example, I mean, the guy, he's dealing with the highest end population of baseball pitchers. And I think as I understand it, every player understands their program and why it's built for them. And the fact that, hey, if you're standing next to Dan and we're telling you to do deadlifts and he's doing it almost like you, don't worry about what he's doing, because that's not what you're doing, and there's no need to get in a competition with him, that's a tough putt, because you're talking, you get one of those guys gets a little injured in your clinic, and that's, sucking $1 million off their yearly salary, So I think it's so important for people to understand that. And then they're so much more engaged as well.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes them feel more part of the process. It aids in the community aspect that you're trying to build, and they just understand why they're there and why that we're doing what we do. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with some of the group stuff. I mean, it is definitely better to get people moving than not moving, obviously. But I think with that is there's just a small percentage of population that kind of stuff works for, and some of the population it doesn't work for. And we're trying to, get in front of that population that it doesn't work for, that are looking for more of a customized solution and kind of don't want to be lost in the shuffle of a large group model.
Now, I don't know if you know the stat off the top of your head. I was just looking at something that these branded large group classes like the F45, Orange Theory, these different ones, their average length of membership is like 8.5 months. And then people burn up and they go to another one or they go to their local gym. In your small group, in general, do you know how long your average length of membership is?
Yeah, I do. That's a really good question. And that is a big number we've been tracking a lot with Tom and Rick for a while now. Last I talked to Rick, I think he said it was more like 6 months for those large group ones. But yeah, somewhere in the 6 to 8. Ours is more around 30 months average membership. So we do 12-month and month-to-month membership options. 99% of our people choose the 12-month option. And then when they're up for that renewal of the 12-month, about 70% of those people renew for another 12 months. So if you work all the numbers backwards and figure out the average length of each client, it's about 30 months.
Which is 2.5 years, right? If I'm doing the math.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
probably
instead of the months.
Yeah, well, you're doing what women do with the age of your kid, right? How old is
exactly.
Your it's 13.85 months. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, it's a year old. Well, 2.5 years is you're getting in a tech industry too. You're getting a lot of transient promotion and people moving just because of their job, right? Like those kind of companies. It's not the coal mine that you work at for 50 straight years, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then typically our clients that do leave, most of them it is because they're moving. Obviously, we have some people that just go off the map and we're not able to get a hold of them and they're not coming in anymore. But for the most part, yeah, that's the people that are leaving are the people that are moving in. And stuff like that.
Now, because you do work in a specialized market like golf fitness, and there's some people listening that I know are very interested in certain groups. So golf fitness, there's I know someone's reached out before. They want to work in the baseball population. Another person totally digging on hockey. What tips do you have for somebody that's starting out in a specialized population? So if you look at your approach to your golf fitness people versus your general small group fitness people that just you're providing an amazing workout, but they don't really know what they want. Whereas the golf fitness people know, I want to hit the ball further. Number one is hit the ball further. Number two is hit the ball further. Number three is I don't want my back to hurt after I hit the ball further. Right?
Yep.
I always say, like, if they come in, whatever they say is bullshit unless they say, I want to hit the ball further. It's that until proven otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
So as people are building out, if somebody decides to go down that niche, what would you recommend as an approach to a very specialized population like golf fitness or baseball fitness or hockey, whatever, if they have knowledge of that sport?
Yeah, that's a great question. My first advice for that would be, and I got this advice from Tom a long time ago, is don't pigeonhole yourself into one niche too much. And so that was a big thing with us opening up this second location. We knew the TrackMan was going to be there. I knew I was partnering with Alex, who's the golf pro there. And I asked Tom, I'm like, should we just turn this into a TPI golf fitness, realm and location? He's like, I wouldn't do that. I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself in that. That can be definitely part of the brand and part of the market, but you also got to continue to go after the corporate fitness after 40 stuff because those guys also pay the bills as well. So I would say from a business like revenue perspective, you want to have your niches and your specialization, but you don't want to pigeonhole yourself too much into one population because that can be really hard to grow. But along those lines, when you do have those niche kind of segments in your gym, like we have with the corporate crowd and with the golf crowd, I think it's just about how you communicate to them. Our coaches know that when they're working with their golfers that they're very type A and you have to explain everything to them. And you want to be able to say, okay, we're doing this move for the swing. And if you don't say that, they're going to ask you like, why are we doing this? How's this going to help me hit the ball farther and stuff like that. So along those lines, it's about the communication and how you communicate to them. And then we've just come up with kind of a custom hybrid programming model where we can train golfers and our normal clientele at the same time off this basically templated system we created where we have a golf template and we have a fitness and fat loss template. And we do have to hire really good coaches that are able to kind of go back and forth between the two and communicate a lot during the session and stuff like that. But we have kind of a hybrid programming model where our golfers are on one set of programming, our other clients are on another set of programming, and then we have all their client notes is kind of how we marry those templates to the client and customize it and stuff like that.
And so when you're saying client notes, like what kind of stuff are you putting in there? So this is coach to coach communication. So that if you're coaching a class on Monday and I'm covering Tuesday, I know that you're going to put notes about Jimmy Smith and I'm going to look at those before my class. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So a big thing with us from the coaching perspective, which is I had the totally opposite feel on this. So I'm glad I learned this from, Tom and Rick back in the day, is that all of our clients work with different coaches. They don't ever work with the same coach all the time. And, from a behind the scenes business perspective, that is because if one of our coaches left, we don't want 40 of our members to all of a sudden leave with that coach. And so that protects us.
By the way, both those guys have told me a story of a coach leaving a business and literally, I'm not kidding when I say it's 50% of the gym leaving with that coach. And I thought that was total BS. And then a friend of mine locally had his coach leave and 45% of his membership went with that coach. And I was like, oh my God, the stories are real.
No, it's 100% real. And I've seen local stuff like that as well, where literally 50% of the guys leave if one of the coach leaves. So we've tried to set ourselves up, from day one to avoid that, obviously. And so part of that is the programming and scheduling, but we don't put the coach's name on our schedule. The client just shows up and they're with whatever coach is working during that shift. But along those lines on the back end, our coaches have to have very good communication between the clients to know that, if they were in yesterday, this is what they did. So we have a pretty extensive note on each client. And so when we have 4 people per hour in the small group, and so our coach will come in ahead of time before their shift and pull out the programs and the notes for the 4 people that are coming in. And if they're not familiar with them, obviously spend some time going over notes. But the notes will have injury history, goals, like little stuff about the clients. This is their kid's name. This is what they like to do on the weekends, that kind of stuff. And so all that is on there. And then they just take that information from the note card and they have our template for the day that is written out. And then they will follow that template and customize the template based off those notes. And then we have 2 separate template bases with a golf template and a normal, fitness and fat loss template.
Nice. Are you interested in becoming a better provider for musculoskeletal conditions? Well, if you know me, you might have seen me out on the road, but I totally believe in, I adore the SFMA, the Selective Functional Movement Assessment. It is a fantastic way of assessing the movement-based dysfunctions in your patients. Now, why movement? Because movement has to do with motor control, and that's usually the first sign that pain is going to develop. And it's a better, more reliable method than assessing pain. So if you're interested in using a movement-based diagnostic system as part of your intake protocol, I would highly recommend the SFMA. Plus, they've got the best instructors. I'm one of them. So I make it fun. I'm easy to listen to. And, well, I don't know about that, but I enjoy teaching it, and it's a fantastic course. I recommend it. So check out functionalmovement.com and look for an SFMA course near you. Functionalmovement.com. Look for an SFMA Level 1 coming to your area. Hope to see you there. So you guys really have polished the system. And what it sounds like, Dan, is you have the most successful and boring fitness business ever. It's not super flashy. It's like send a thank you card, be really nice, take notes, but it's not the flashy lights and aggressive t-shirts and all that stuff, right? It's just like do a great job for your clients and just keep doing a great job.
Yeah, exactly. I think customer service is the biggest thing for us. That's what differentiates us from a lot of other gyms. And then, I would say we do try to kind of fly under the radar a little bit and do things very simply and just create the best service and experience possible and do that day in and day out and see where we're at.
Yeah. And then you'll become as I call it, if you work with Tom long enough, it's a plum dog millionaire, like the movie.
Exactly.
Well, if you don't mind, a couple other questions that I have, because you're one of the few people that I think is doing the model right. You have enough space to do large group, but you're doing small group. But let me dive into that. So you said you're doing classes of 4 people at a time, but you got 4,000 square feet. So what are you using all that space for? Or are there multiple classes going on at a time, or how does it work there?
Well, pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of our busy hours. We would have 8 people training. So 4 people per coach, 2 coaches going on. Okay. And that actually 4,000 square feet. Yeah, 4,000 square feet is actually pretty good for that because you do want to have enough space for everybody to still be able to do all their stuff. And then, pre-COVID, we were also running 2 group classes a day kind of to supplement our people that were doing the small group stuff. And so those we would have up to 16 people. So in that case, we would need a little bit larger space. But for the most part, that 4,000 suits us for having like 8 people in an hour on the small group with 2 coaches working 4 at a time. And then we do have a little open gym area where people can come in and work out, get some extra like mobility and stuff done on their own.
Nice. And the coaches aren't yelling over each other and, trying to hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Exactly. And then You also said that you've run some ads in the past, and I just want to understand that, because a lot of times what you see mostly in the fitness industry, the most prevalent version is come in, lose a bunch of weight. We'll make it super cheap for you, lose 20 pounds and it's free kind of stuff. But you're not that type of gym, right? And you're dealing with a much more refined population. So what have you found works in the world of ads and whatnot to get that population to respond? And I'm guessing you don't want the people want it for free, because that's just going to screw up your model, and they don't appreciate what you're doing. But the people who do appreciate it are going to be so excited and jazzed about it that you want to get them in, right?
Yeah, exactly. We try to avoid getting the crowd in here that's, the Groupon type of crowd that's jumping from gym to gym and doing free deals and stuff like that. So we do want our people that are coming in to have some skin in the game. So typically, the lowest price point thing we would run on Facebook or in our marketing would be like a 30-day for $99 trial process, something like that. But a lot of our marketing, I got to give a little shout out to Colin McGarty. He's at Seacoast Kettlebell in New Hampshire. He's a big guy that with Tom as well, and done a lot of stuff with him. We've learned a lot of the marketing stuff from him, and follow a lot of the similar stuff that he does, in the sense of it's a lot of content-based marketing. Like, we have ads on the back end, but we also want to establish ourselves as experts in the area. And so we have a lot of, we'll do like fitness, we'll do exercise of the week posts, we'll do nutrition posts, we will do a lot of client testimonials. I think where most people make the mistake from a marketing perspective is they try to be the one on video or show themselves working out and kind of make it all about them, whereas you want to make it all about your client. If I have a 40-year-old house mom that's scrolling through Facebook, she's not going to stop at an extra, video of me working out. She's going to stop at a client that looks like her that's telling a story of how she succeeded at our gym. So testimonials are huge for us. And then just trying to do a bunch of content just to deliver stuff that people want to see that's a little different from the mainstream, shirt off workout videos.
Yeah. Now, have you had more success in going after the specialized market about, golf, talking all about golf and golf content versus the feel better after 40 crowd? Is it a little easier to market to that group?
I would say it's actually pretty even, about 50-50 in each. The thing with us at all of our gyms that's nice is, really, for our gyms to be successful, we only need about 200 or so clients at each location to be doing really well. And so if you think about that, that's a very small segment of our population here. In the 5-mile radius of where I'm at in Kirkland, there's 100,000 people. And so that's really easy for us to just target and niche down some of our marketing. So we do try to speak to that crowd of the fitness over 40 and the golf stuff, and really try to customize those marketing messages a little bit more. And I would say both of them hit about the same, honestly, as long as you're doing them same. The golf one is probably a little bit harder because it's a little bit more niched out. And so actually a lot of our golf marketing here is more grassroots too. We have some good relationships with some country clubs here. We have good relationship with teaching pros that refers people. So the golf stuff is a little bit more grassroots than online, and the fitness after 40 hits really well online on Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. Yeah, it's the fitness industry is a crazy thing. Like, if you look on Instagram, what works? I mean, there are these women that, they're hot. I mean, that's their whole marketing ploy. And it's like, you think there's no expertise here. You're just hot. And like, that works for them to sell these like little monthly, challenges. But
for sure.
But one thing about golfers that I've experienced, they want information. Like, you need to fill their bucket in their head full of that is empty of information, and they'll consume video content like crazy if it makes sense to them and they feel like it'll get them better. And they don't really care, how good looking the swing coach is. I mean, you see them watching videos with like Hank Haney and all these other guys. So I just laugh because I feel like you're caught in the middle of two things, right? Like, the money comes from these golfers and they like attractive women, but they want some pretty good information on the back end. So the content marketing works a little bit better for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just boils down to knowing your audience and knowing your target market. And it's kind of like what we talked about before, the large group model, that tends to be marketed more towards like the 25 to 35-year-old crowd anyways. And so there probably are the people that are Instagram, they're going to follow the good looking fitness model or whatever it is. Whereas our fitness after 40 or even our golfers after 40 client, like they're not typically clicking on that kind of stuff. They're clicking on stuff that is engaging to them. Like you said, the golfers, it's like the technical video type of instruction stuff. And with our fitness after 40 crowd, it's them seeing a testimonial that's well produced and put together of somebody that looks like them, that succeeded at a gym. That's not the typical like meathead, 25-year-old crowd. And so I think both work. I mean, obviously the 25 to 35-year-old fitness model stuff works. There's people with millions of followers selling all sorts of products that work, but that's not the type of clientele we're really going after. And so we just have to know our target market. And like I said, we only need about, literally like 1% of the population around us to succeed with the gym. And so we're just trying to attract that 1%.
Man, and with your super low churn number, like, I mean, if you're keeping people for 30 months, I don't know what you need to add in every month, but it's a single digit number, right, of new members to keep the place healthy?
Yeah, exactly. So our attrition numbers, like we're about 97% retention each month. So that means if we've got 100 members, we're losing about 3. The group model typically is more like 10 to 15% a month. So they're having to replace, 10 to 15% of their members, which is a lot tougher. So for us, like, let's say we got 200 members, we know we're probably going to lose 6 each month just on that normal 3% attrition. That means we ideally would like to get about 12 people in, to replace those 6. So we're netting 6 a month, which nets us about $2,000 a month in EFT. And that, I mean, that's not every month, but that's our typical goal. So we usually here we can do about 20 trials a month. If we do 20 trials in a month, we'll sign up 12 of those people to a regular membership, and then that will net out about 6 positive members a month. And it doesn't happen every month, but that's our goal.
Yeah. And how many of those are you getting from just organic what would you call it? How many of those are from paid advertising out of those 20 trials, and how many do you think are organic?
Yeah, it's about 75-25. I'd say 75% of our leads and trials come from online, social media. But that also includes people that like might walk in and sign up for a trial and say, hey, I just saw your stuff on Facebook. It might not be like a direct opt-in off of there.
Yeah.
Or
and the other was talking about you and I finally saw your ad or whatever.
I saw your ad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, like just going back to the content stuff, is like, you just always have to be top of mind with everybody, anyways. And so we just try to build like a 5-mile radius around our gym where people are just constantly getting hammered with our stuff on social media, because everybody has a different point in their life when they're ready to make a change. It could be, they're having their first kid, or they have a reunion coming up, or, they finally are getting so much pain on the golf course they want to make, whatever it is. Everybody has a different stimulus that causes that change. And when they do want to make that change, we want to be the ones that they're thinking of. And so that's where kind of that content stuff comes in as well.
I know this in the chiropractic business, and you can tell me if you see this in fitness as well, but there's a lot of people that are kind of hesitant to do paid advertising. And they're like, all my people come from word of mouth and referral. When you look at the people who do paid advertising, the quote unquote word of mouth and referral nearly doubles as you add paid advertising, because you're making sure that your phone number's out there. You're making sure your address is out there, your offer, people are clear about who you are, what you do. And so if you're going, I get all my business from word of mouth referrals, I think that's awesome. Number one, you're doing a great job. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. But if you want to grow, how do you can't demand that people talk about you more, and you can't demand that they send their friends, and people typically turns them off. But if you just make the barrier lower on how to find you by running paid ads, and they don't have to be like super, Broseph on Brosepson, like flexi shirt guy, but just saying like, hey, here's 3 stretches that you can use as a golfer. And, here's 4 great recipes for weight loss. People see that, and then they're like, oh, you know what? My buddy Stacy was talking about that. I should probably go check them out. And
exactly.
Do you see that as well?
Yeah, definitely, man. That stuff goes hand in hand. And like I said, we still get about 25% of our leads from referrals, and that should obviously always be in place. You always want to be getting referrals because it's a direct, reflection on your business and that you're doing a good job. But it's hard to continue to grow just off of referrals. So I think there has to be a paid advertising base as well. And that was honestly something it took me a long time to get used to that. Like Tom was always trying to hammer me on spending $3,000 a month on marketing on Facebook and online and stuff like that. And that was a big number to me, man. It took me a while to be like, okay, I get it. But
when you're a brand new fitness business and Tom's up there, your minimum marketing spend should be $300 to $3,500 a month. I was like, Tom, why don't you just kick me in the junk repeatedly? Like, that is so painful to hear.
Yeah.
Like, let me figure out the memberships. I mean, for you're making $300 a month off each member. That's 10 memberships just for marketing. And early on, it's like to get up to that 10 is like hard. It's backbreaking, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. But I will say though, that once you do commit to that, there is a direct return on investment, and it is worth the money. If you kind of reverse engineer and crunch all the numbers on it, it does pay off, and it is the best way to go. But for a lot of people, that's a huge number, and that was a huge number for myself included when we first started doing it. But once I committed to it, it does work, man. And it does pay dividends. And if you are trying to grow and scale and maybe have multiple locations, or at least get your current location up to being profitable, it's kind of a must, honestly.
All right, last question, Dan. And I want to respect your time, and I appreciate you being here. You have 2 locations in basically the suburbs of a very large city in Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. And pretty wealthy. And then you have this 3rd location out in Butte, Montana. Butte's a small town of what, 65,000, 75,000, something like that?
Just under 50,000, actually.
Okay, 50,000. And I've been through there. I've been around there. There's nothing around there. So you're not in a suburb. That is the city, right? What have you learned in marketing? Because I have some clients that are in these, they're in rural areas, and we talk about the size of their market and the size of their gym. Any big differences you've learned there that you can give some advice coming from, as they'll say in Butte, Montana, oh, you city boy coming out here to business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad we can touch on that a little bit, because there is such different markets out there. Like, we're obviously lucky to be in a big affluent area here in Seattle, but there's a lot of people in smaller rural areas, just like you talked about. So part of the reason when my buddy that I played football with in college is the one that approached me about this gym in Butte and asked me to come on board and open it up with him after we had been doing stuff in Seattle here for a while.
And ball, by the way,
Montana Tech, small school in Butte. So that's where the Butte ties come from as well. Okay. And so I approached Tom and Rick about it, asked them how we structured it, got all that stuff in place. But really why I decided to take it on as well is because I knew that I wanted to open multiple locations here in Seattle as well. And at the time when so the Montana one was the 2nd gym we opened. We'd only had 1 location in Seattle at that time. And I knew that I needed to test my systems out and test our processes out in a totally different market to really be able to learn and grow. And Tom was a big proponent of me like having a full operations manual that we write up that has all of our systems and processes so that we could scale. And he basically was saying that if you're going to open a 2nd location, it needs to be like you're opening 10 locations, because once you open another one, you can kind of float back and forth between the 2. But ultimately, if you're going to have multiple locations, they all have to be able to run without you on very like regimented systems and operations stuff. So we spent a lot of time getting the operations manual together, getting everything that we do down on paper. And then the Montana thing was a perfect way for me to test those systems and see if they work in a different area and really learn and grow, which then really helped us open up our 2nd location here. So back to the marketing and the rural stuff you were talking about is it's really not as different as you think it would be. We do a lot of content marketing in Montana as well. And the interesting thing about Montana is it's actually easier to market there, man, because there's only 1 or 2 other gyms, and like half the people that are running business there don't even know how to do marketing on social media and Facebook and stuff like that. And so our marketing actually isn't different at all over there. We run a lot of the exact same stuff. The only thing that is different is with it being a more rural area, obviously our price points are a little different. And we do get a little bit more of the large group crowd there, but it's our type of large group. It's still the more like functional, like fitness after 40 type of large group, not the F45. But the thing with Montana is there is no F45 or Orange Theory or anything we're at. We have to meet our clients where they're at and provide a little bit lower price point memberships as well. So we still have people doing semi-private, but a lot of it's a large group. So that changes the marketing a tiny bit, but for the most part, it's the exact same, man. It's testimonials, it's content, it's really not a lot different. And that's been one of the most eye-opening things for me, putting my systems over there and seeing it work, and they do actually work similarly in both.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage, I'm sure, that you can that you can't drive there in an hour. Because we opened up a 2nd location at a country club across town, and I made the mistake of doing the opposite of what you said. We didn't have our system set, and so it was a lot of freaking superhero work of running over, the last minute, trying to save this and that. And the fact that you couldn't get to your gym in a half day's drive is probably helped. That insulation from it probably helped a lot,
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And I was really glad that Tom taught me a lesson early, because I would have just opened up a second location and tried to fly by the seat of my pants, and it wouldn't have worked very well. And so testing those systems in Montana worked great. And then now our second location here in Issaquah, like, I'm maybe there once a week, so it does run a lot on its own.
I would just guess in Montana, can you burn up $3,000 of paid advertising every month?
It's a little bit less than that. It's probably more like 1,500 to 2,000. But we still spend a lot on marketing there. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that, I have a client, he's out in Minot, North Dakota, which is, I think, about the same size, 45 to 55,000 in the general area. He's grown leaps and bounds. I mean, he opened up a 750 square foot gym attached to his clinic, outgrew that. Now he has like a 2,500 square foot gym down the street, and it looks like in another year he's going to outgrow that. So
there's a lot of potential in the more rural stuff. Honestly, our gym in Montana doesn't do as much revenue as we do here in Seattle, but the profit margins are honestly better in Montana than they are here in Seattle, just because of the lack of competition, and the overhead's a lot cheaper. And so.
All right. Well, I won't publish this. I'll try and do my best not to publish this episode in Montana so that you can continue to dominate that market, because there are cities you could get into there, but yeah. Anyways. All right. Well, Dan, this has been you're an encyclopedia of both knowledge and application. So I really appreciate this. And I think this is going to do so much for my listeners. I know that, you get coaching a lot from Tom and Rick. You also coach some folks if they're interested. Is that right?
Yeah, I am. I have a lot of business clients that I work with as well now, and do the mentoring and doing a lot of speaking and stuff as well now. And so, yeah.
Well, if people want to get a hold of you and maybe they're interested in that because they heard something that they're interested in, how do they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram or Facebook's probably the easiest. You can also email me, Dan@cuttingedgefitness.com. I'm all over the place.
K, right?
Yep, Cutting Edge with a K. Yep. So I'm all over the place, man. I try to be very accessible. So whatever people need, they can get a hold of me, and I'm here to help. And I really appreciate what you're doing too, man, in the industry, and just all this kind of stuff that your content you're putting out is great and really help moving everything forward.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, and I hope our paths cross in. I would have been at a Perform Better Long Beach if it existed this year, but we got to roll with the punches. So
yeah, we're virtual now, but hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, on behalf of Dan Kleckner up in Seattle, Washington, this is Dr. Josh Satterlee saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for checking out these videos. I hope they're useful. We'll cover things like rehab, exercise, business model, progressions, layout, everything else that helps you build a clinic. So if you're interested, you can click here, there, here, or anywhere to get more videos just like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you soon.